Greetings builders, Daniel here, and today I'm gonna show you 3 of the most played builds during the 4th week of the Settlers of Kalguur League. If you wanna try any of those, you can find the links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. And if this video helps you, please leave a thumbs up to support the channel. Thank you very much, and let's get into it! Let's start with an amazing skill that is being played by over 25% of high level players, the Lightning Strike Trickster with the Shadow class. Lightning Strike is an awesome skill that used to be on top of the meta, but went down after a couple of nerfs. Now with the recent buffs, it's back to the top and with more power than ever. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. Besides a strong melee hit, Lightning Strike also creates many lightning projectiles that run on the floor, killing every enemy on its path. Besides that, this build also counts with the Trickster Ascendance to be super fast and tanky. It has 7 frames charges for extra damage and speed and a lot of defensive layers. Now to list the cons, the first thing that comes to mind is that this build needs a good elemental call to work properly, but don't worry, it's easy to buy one from other players. As for budget, this build is not expensive at all. You can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfort with advanced yellow maps, you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. For clear speed, I'll give this one 10 out of 10. As mentioned before, you have 7 frames charges and a huge effect of elusive that grants this build a lot of movement speed. Besides that, Lightning Strike creates many projectiles that run on the floor, exploding many enemies that aren't even close to you yet. The boss damage is also amazing, deserves 9 out of 10. Lightning Strike just received a big damage buff, and this build is an awesome boss killer. For the survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build has over 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion, spell suppression, fortify, and even a trickster buff that causes you to take 40% less damage. Above all, you are immune to freeze and stuns. Next, we have a skill that is fast, strong and very popular, the Flicker Strike Slayer with the Duelist class. This build uses Terminus S to sustain the frames charges needed for you to keep flickering. It's a great and simple Flicker Strike build for beginners. To list the pros of this build, I would have to start with its clear speed. Look at that, this is just insanely fast. It also counts with an awesome boss damage and instant life leech. And of course, Flicker builds are just super cool. Now to list the cons, I would start with the fact that you're always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Another issue is that you have little control over your character, making it hard on bosses where you need to mind your position or attack the right enemy. As for budget, you can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortable advanced yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. You need only one mandatory unique item for this build, the Terminus S sword that keeps your frenzy charges up even while flickering. For clear speed, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I don't even need to say anything, just take a look at the gameplay and you have to agree with me. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. This build can easily deal many millions of damage per second, it's just great to kill big bosses like that. Now for the survivability, I'll only give it 8 out of 10. Even though this build still has almost 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion and spell suppression, I had to take 2 points out for the same reason as I did with the Cyclone Slayer. Since you're always very close to enemies, you're always in a vulnerable position. Finally, here's the OP Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times, and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I wouldn't even know where to start. It counts with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and a big effective HP. Above all, it's cheap and easy to put together, it doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, this one is also vulnerable to chaos damage, unless of course you invest on chaos resistance gear. As for budget, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expensive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a dead eye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing on this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage is also a 10 out of 10. You can use Vol Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using whirling blades on them. It's just unreal. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. And that's it for today, guys. Are you playing any of those meta builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day and don't forget to keep building!